Please welcome Stewart Title's National Sales Manager, Mick Goodenough. As you know, sales professionals must keep learning. The Sales Professor is in. Here's Sales Minutes with Mick.
And the Sales Professor is in once again. Mick Goodenough, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here, Bill, as always.
People, we get such great feedback on this segment. People love the segment, and because you always have great information, great things in simplified form that people can take away. They don't even have to write it down sometimes. It's so good. Mick, what do you have today for us?
Well, it always is in simplified form because that's the best way I can retain it.
Me too.
There's no doubt. And simpler is always better. You know, it's so funny. I know two of your other guests are people that I have a lot of respect for. And this is the thing I love doing the most is talking about being very effective in your job. And there are so many techniques and so many ideas and so many plans and there's really nothing. I've gotten away from the idea of saying something's right or wrong, and it's really about, is it effective, is it less effective, or is it ineffective? Because right and wrong brings with it probably a deeper sense of moral judgment, and we're really talking about business and sales and doing things well and doing things for the benefit of not only you but your customer, representing your product or your service well. So all these things, we really, you almost want to take a step back from these black and white two-option terms and look at it much, much differently.
That's right. And in fact, as we think about sales, there's a purity of sales because you persuade them or you show them the features of what you're offering, and they either accept it or they don't, or they wait. But also, along with people that are in the sales profession, there are so many other things to do, to track, to report, all these things. Sometimes that can take a great salesperson off track if they don't manage it properly.
You couldn't be more correct. And so I had seen this comic, and it says it shows a manager sitting with two of his salespeople. And it says, I need your sales forecasts by Monday, your updated client list by Tuesday, your expense reports by Wednesday, and your budget plans by Thursday. And by the way, why aren't you people making more sales calls?
Hell yeah, sell something.
So go sell something. So we do know that in many times there are so many things that salespeople have to do task-wise that they are important. They are important to make sure you're staying on top of the things you are required to do to fulfill the duties of your position. But at the same time, you have to be very focused about making sure that you don't immerse yourself in these things and get away from what is truly important. And that is what we like to call at Stewart the income-producing activities. Activities that without a much stretch of the imagination, you can directly point that this is going to result in revenue generation for you, for your company, and a positive outcome for your customer as well. And we really are hyper-focused now on looking at those things in all of our sales day. It is something that you have to be very, very self-aware, not self-critical, not hypercritical, but you have to know and understand and take a look at your day, every day in your week, and say, did I do the things I needed to do to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish? And that's why, having listened to Brian just now, it was just great. It put a smile on my face because I love his book. I've embarked on the 12-week year planning myself. It's one of my goals for this year with the company. And it makes me very happy to hear things like this because it is so meaningful, but we also cannot get drawn into the minutia. And it's interesting, Bill, I've seen this in real estate. I've been in the title business now going on 27 years, and I've dealt with a lot of wonderful realtors over the years. As I've said on a past show, my mom was a realtor for 31 years. I've seen how realtors as well can get off track because if they're singular transaction focused, in other words, you get up, you consummate a deal and you open an escrow and you have your customer in the escrow process, and you tend to you hang on to that and you're managing that through the process, and you lose track of the other things you need to be doing all the time. You need to continue prospecting, you need to continue networking. Then when that deal closes, you're further behind in your plans. It's really one of the things, what another great sales trainer that I follow on Twitter, Tom Ferry, talks about all the time, is blocking out those times for those income-producing activities. So it goes across the sales spectrum, but it truly is important in real estate to stay focused, do the things you need to do every day, but also do the things that are truly important to advancing your cause and advancing your career and your happiness.
And as you said just a minute ago, you said when we look back at what activities were income producing activities. That's a great thing too. But also, as we all have, or not all of us, a lot of us have to-do lists and write down the actions that we're going to do on a given day. I think that's a good thing as we do that, to also say, hey, I have this written down. Is that an income producing activity? And look at it on the front end as well. I think that's very important, right?
Very important. To-do lists, task lists, you have to write the things down that you need to accomplish. And checking those off as you go gives a tremendous sense of satisfaction. You're accomplishing things. The bigger point, which you just said, is those things need to be very important. And listen, sometimes you just have to do the mundane, everyday tasks, whatever that is, running errands, doing these things that life happens every day. But it's still important, as if you're a professional salesperson, there are things you need to do professionally every single day. You need to identify those, and you need to schedule for those important things and not vary unless there's a big fire you have to put out.
That's right. In fact, even sometimes, as you're mentioning, the comic with the reports and things like that, in a way, even doing our report is an income-producing activity, because depending on the company we work for or our own discipline, that's required to do that to create our living and to maintain our living.
It's certainly true. Reports are very, very interesting. In my years as a sales manager, I always told the people who reported to me, reports are made to be written, not read. In other words, don't write the report with me in mind as the reader, and that you're trying to somehow convey to me the things that you think I want to hear. What I always said is, write the report as if you were grading, you were assessing your own performance, and that you would be the one after you reread it to say I'm happy or not. Because the greatest associates I've ever had work for me have much, much higher expectations of their own performance than I would ever have. And in many times when they would go off track, they would be so down on themselves. My only job really was to buck them back up and tell them how outstanding they were and send them back on their way. But that's really important to know and understand.
And also, it kind of ties in with accountability as well. And that's one of the components of Brian's book, The 12-Week Year. He talks a great deal about accountability and how that helps you get to your goals.
It's great. And I love that part of his book when he says accountability is not about the discipline. It doesn't have a disciplinary edge. It's about ownership. I am accountable. I'm accountable to myself to get these things done. I'm accountable to my boss to make sure that I'm representing my department or my company well. And I'm accountable to my company as well. So really, it starts with us as individuals and being fulfilled and driven in a good way, and then getting those things done in an organized way. That's why I'm a big 12-week year fan, and so happy that we're involved with that.
Indeed. And also another thing to tie in, as you mentioned the term income-producing activities, that ties in with Brian. What he talks about is having that vision is one thing, but you have to execute it. And simply put, that also, you could say that you just have to do it and go back to do the income-producing activities. I mean, it's all so logical. And sometimes we just falter and get off track. If someone's off track, though, tell Mick some of the things that you do to get back on track, too.
Well, the main thing you can do to get back on track is have that plan. Have those tasks. Understand that you will get off track. I mean, that's almost the first thing you have to say is, I will get off track. So it shouldn't surprise you when it happens, or shock you, or throw you for too big of a loop. I mean, it depends on the event that takes you off track. But then you have to realize, I'm looking back at my plan for the week or for the month, and I know I still have these things to accomplish in a certain amount of time. That's, again, what I love about the 12-Week Year book, and I know I'm sounding like an ongoing commercial for Brian, but it's an outstanding approach to it. Is there's not a lot of time that can go by before you realize, I really need to get with the program. It's not like you have an entire year or a quarter to say, okay, I got time to get back to it. And that's really what we're talking about. But having a plan and goals, that is what will get you back on track. But really the bigger part is just realizing up front you will get off track, and you need this system in place to get back on track.
Having a plan, having a process in place, because just like an airline pilot, they know that things will go wrong, and when they do, they're not like, oh, what do we do now? Hey, there's the engine went out. What do we do? No, they know exactly. They have protocols, they have systems in place. They keep a clear head, and they fix it, and they deal with it.
They do. They fix it. They deal with it. That happens in a lot of industries, and I think it can be applied to ours as well. And that is what it means to be a professional salesperson. There are professional ideas, there are professional approaches every single day. And I've always told people, the more you're in control of your day, the more you are controlling your day, the happier and more fulfilled you will be. The most miserable salespeople are the ones whose sales lives are out of control. They're being pulled in every direction. They can't discipline themselves. Everybody else is calling the shots. Those are very unhappy salespeople. Disciplined salespeople who have control actually have the most fun.
Indeed, they do. And in fact, I'm having a premonition here, Mick. There's going to be a time that we're going to be talking about the book that you write, and that probably won't be that long from now. I'm just guessing.
Well, it's funny you say that. I follow a number of very smart people on Twitter, motivational people, and they all, Jeff Gitomer's one, Brian Tracy's one, and they all say that if you have any aspirations at all to write, and I do, and I have in the past, some other things, just sketching things out. But they said, get up and write something every day. And so that's what I do. And even if it's a couple of paragraphs, an idea, you just get used to this idea. So it is a goal of mine. I have things in my head that I think would help people. And one day, I hope soon, that we'll be able to announce that.
No doubt about it. Ladies and gentlemen, Mick Goodenough. Tell them how they can find out more, Mick.
Well, the best way is to go to Stewart.com and check out our beautiful website for our company. Goodenough, MGOODENO at Stewart.com is my email address. So I'd love to hear from anybody.
Very nice. Ladies and gentlemen, our sales professor, Mick Goodenough. Thank you, Professor.
Thanks, Bill.